to me, having gone through, 7 decades of activism, I've always been hopeful. I've watched these movements accomplish incredible things that we today take for granted. A more peaceful world in some ways, society relatively free of sexism and racism, although both of those things still exist in places where they shouldn't exist. We've watched people create movements that have resulted in Social Security, in unemployment insurance, in various environmental safeguards, in so many things at the global level relative to illiteracy and to access to food, that we forget that those things were not always there, that we have moved to a place where so many of the things that I just mentioned we take for granted, but they were not there for most people on the planet during feudalism. They were not there for most people on the planet during slavery. They were not there for most people on the planet during colonialism. And yet we were able over decades, to deal with those systems that created problems for millions of people. And we were able to overcome those problems, not because there was one man, and there were people that were important people in those struggles, whether it was Martin Luther King or Gandhi or Rosa Luxemburg or Florence Nightingale. I mean, there were a lot of people that individuals would stand out in one's mind as people that made major contributions. But they were only able to do that because there were movements of large numbers of people that were concerned about those issues. When the people lead, leaders will follow. It's not the other way around. Martin Luther King did not create a movement. A movement created Martin Luther King. India didn't win its independence because of Gandhi. Gandhi became a leader because there was a movement for independence in India. The same thing happened with the women's suffrage. There were women that struggled for the right of women to vote, which they didn't have in the United States until about 1920. Up until then, women didn't have the right to vote. And the suffragettes that worked on that behalf were critical to making that happen. But they were only made it happen because millions of women demanded the right to vote. So it's the movement of people that makes things happen. And we can do that today by helping to create a movement amongst people that practice yoga and meditation and dance, that say we want a more peaceful, humanistic, less militaristic world. That's our agenda, and we will only support candidates that promote that agenda. What's the point in promoting people who support more militarism? If we keep supporting people that support more militarism, we'll have more militarism. And eventually, the militarism always leads to more weapons. And the more weapons you have, the more weapons will be used. Every weapon that's ever been devised by human beings was always used. And right now, that includes nuclear weapons. So if we want to move away from the nuclear precipice, where there are still like maybe 15,000 nuclear weapons poised to destroy humanity, if we want to move away from that, we have to put women in charge. And the reason we have to put women in charge is the women didn't create that system. A patriarchal, male-oriented, militaristic mind created systems based on fear, based on profit. And that agenda needs to be changed. If you took the profit out of war, that would be the end of war. There's a lot of profit in war. And the people that profit are people that have amassed incredible amounts of wealth. I'll give you an example. There are on the planet 950 billionaires. It's not a big number. 950 people on the planet have more than $1 billion. Billions, 1,000 million. And there's 950 people on the planet that have assets or their bank account of over $1 billion. 950 people. If those 950 people had a meeting at a hotel somewhere and decided, you know, we're going to set up a foundation and we will devote 5% of our assets. They would never miss it. They wouldn't even know it was gone. We're going to devote 5% of our assets every year through this foundation to eliminate poverty on the planet. That would be the end of poverty. That's it.
You sound like you're for a redistribution of wealth.
You know, personally, I would say redistribute it willingly, that if those 950 people didn't want to do it willingly, I'd say society ought to say, we're going to tax you with 5% of your assets to make the planet a better place to live in. Now that's radical. They call me a revolutionary for saying that, and I don't mind, because the 950 billionaires would never know that that 5% was gone. They wouldn't even miss it. Yeah. And the planet would be a much better place. So what's the point?
I hear you.
Now, there is a theory amongst people of wealth that the more wealth they have, it'll trickle down to the masses, to the poor. Doesn't happen. Most of the time, it does not happen. Some of the wealth in countries that get wealthy are able to achieve that. Some of the countries in Scandinavia are already donating in official direct aid over 0.7% of their gross national income product, 0.7% to help eliminate poverty on the planet. That's the goal of the United Nations. 0.7%. The American part of that, of official direct aid, that we contribute as a nation to official direct aid, is 0.1%. 0.1%, which literally, at the scheme of things, is almost nothing.